be bringing our fighters to the center for last second instructions.
All right, gentlemen, we're over the rules in the locker room. I want a clean, fair fight. At all times, protect yourself at all times. Jordan, any questions from you? What about you, Jake? Touch up, let's fight.
Couple of 145-pound professional fighters in the cage. Jake Mendez wears the white trunks. He's representing Trials MMA, facing off against Jordan Titoni. Mr. Titoni wearing the silver trunks, and he represents Factory X. Referee Tom Johnson, third in the cage. Both these guys with a wealth of experience. Mendez feints with the left, comes through hard with the right. Bit of feinting and feeling out to get it started here. Like I said, a lot of experience with these guys and a lot of respect for each other. Titoni able to get it to the mat. That's what he wanted. Mendez off his back, looking to use head control. Try and keep Titoni from posturing up, working that ground and pound, but so far, Titoni doing a good job able to hold Mendez down. Mendez with his back against the cage, going to try to get his feet underneath him, see if he can't cage walk, get back to standing, and Titoni, of course, going to try to pull the hips away from the cage and see if he can't keep that cage walk from happening. Working his way to an improved position here is Titoni. Half mount now and working head control. Trying to set in the guillotine, doesn't have the hand position where he wants it. Mendez has one hand in, fighting it off. Trying to come up to standing is Mendez, but Titoni getting a better position on the crank here. Now able to get Mendez off the cage and shoulders flat on the mat, so better position for Titoni here. Head and arm choke position being set up by Titoni. He's going to have to pass over to his own right-hand side. Mendez, of course, aware of that, has his hand and foot in position to block Titoni from going that direction. And Mendez working a figure four here. He's going to hold Titoni into position. Titoni shows some strength, picks up his opponent from kneeling and slams him down into the cage. And this is a new position that I haven't seen, but I can tell that Mendez trying to set up sort of a modified head and arm choke. He's using his legs and his shin on one side, or his thigh rather, on one side to close off some blood flow, and using his arm on the other side to close off some blood flow. So if he gets this, it's going to be submission of the night, and I won't even know what to call it. And Titoni seemingly kind of nonplussed about the position. Obviously doesn't feel that he's in much danger of being choked, and starting to go to work with skipping elbows here. And Titoni doing a good job with keeping his right elbow flared. If it comes across on the other side, that right hand starts to come across Titoni's face, that'll be a worse position for him. But right now, keeping that elbow flared, and then he pops all the way free. Corner of Titoni, Factory X fighters calling for a crossface. Again, want him to hold Mendez down, see if he can improve his position. Good job by Mendez with the body lock, but Titoni able to get a little posture. And now full mount for Titoni, and he goes to work with the ground and pound. Sets in the rear naked choke by way of threatening with the arm bar. Has one hand in position, does Titoni. Mendez trying to fight off the other hand, and If Titoni's able to get that left hand free, he's going to be able to go gable grip and close off this choke. Mendez, of course, aware of that, trying to clamp down on it, and good job by Mendez defending the choke. Turning in now is Mendez. Better position. Titoni, very heavy pressure. And 10-second clacker sounded. Titoni tried to transition to an armbar. Mendez able to bump him off, and a little separation here to end round one. Good round for Titoni. Had some really nice ground and pound working for him. Mendez, a lot of the fight relegated toward being defensive. See if we get the replay of the takedown here, and Titoni able to reach through for the far side ankle pick, lifts his opponent and gets him planted on the cage, and from there he spent most of the rest of the round trying to go to work. Mendez again, seeing it here with that interesting cross body position, but not able to get the submission he was looking for, and that allowed Titoni to eventually work himself free, work some solid ground and pound, threaten with a couple of submissions. And referee Tom Johnson checks to make sure everybody's got their mouthpieces in. And we got some water over in the corner of Titoni. So we're gonna have a timeout here, and referee Tom Johnson gonna go to work with the towel for a moment. Good groundwork shown by Johnson. Round two, here we go. See if Mendez tries to keep the fight long. Work is striking. Titoni not afraid to close in. Work that kick, and again going for the takedown is Titoni. Missed the first one, but that wrestler's mentality. Second effort, got it on the mat. Now Mendez trying to work a leg lock. And Titoni has defeated the leg lock position now. See if Mendez is able to get guard, tries to throw up a triangle choke. Titoni able to push him down and come through to side control. Mendez going to scramble here. Titoni scrambles right along with him, ends up in full mount. Corner of Titoni calling for high mount. They want his knees up in the armpits of Mendez. And see if Titoni tries to transition to an armbar, tried to set it up there. Mendez felt it coming, wise to it, defended, and Titoni had to adjust position, and now Mendez in a position momentarily, at least I was going to say, where he could try to work his feet into the cage, see if he couldn't roll through and escape backdoor, but Titoni doing a good job working the position here from mount. And there goes Mendez again, looking to come off the fence. Tries to set up a leg lock one more time. Mendez using his legs for a scissor body lock. Good job by Mendez off of his back tonight, using his length advantage well, but Titoni has an answer for the positions. And Titoni trying to isolate a far arm now. Gets that arm, Titoni might step over with the left leg to isolate the head, shut down some of the mobility of Mendez, but Mendez again, good job with his flexibility and his positioning off of his back, using his legs to help defend here. Titoni trying to work it hard. Mendez, nice job with his defense. A lot of people from the crowd calling for elbows from Mendez, and it's Titoni that starts to go to work with the elbow strikes into the rib cage. So Titoni again, I was going to say momentarily at least, was looking to set up that far arm. He's trying to hold it down with his head, get his hands into play. See if Titoni's able to get that right leg free. Both fighters working body strikes, nothing that's going to cause lots of damage, but maybe get the opponent to feel some discomfort and shift their position into something that benefits. A little bit of slowing in the action here. And crowd starting to voice just the tiniest bit of displeasure, and don't think that I quite agree with that, because these guys are working hard right here. Tough position, a lot of energy being put out. Titoni continues to try to work that far arm. Mendez, good job turning onto a hip. That allows him to pull that arm in tighter. There's that step over that I was saying Titoni might go for, but Mendez able to come back up, and Mendez comes up looking just furious, but Titoni pops him with a couple of strikes. And Mendez stalking forward. Uppercut for Mendez. Spinning back fist misses, and then a skip-in knee lands for Mendez. And Titoni one more time, able to flatten Mendez out. Same position that Mendez was working for earlier. Bell sounds, so round 3 is the treat that the crowds get. You can see here on the replay that second effort takedown that puts it on the mat for Titoni. Then Mendez affecting his escapes. Good job working the backdoor escapes tonight by Mendez. And just really heavy, solid chest, shoulder, and hip pressure shown by Titoni tonight. Mendez unable to get up off the canvas. And as they come back to standing to end the round, both of them put out a lot of energy. You can see their technique. Not quite as crisp as it was, but plenty of heart shown by these guys. Trials MMA cornerman Ryan Schultz in the face of Mendez between rounds, telling him to get out there and work hard for it. Both guys showing a little bit of the wear of this fight. It's been a grueling match on the ground. Both of them having to put out a ton of energy working those positions. And you can see it because their hands are down kind of around chest and waist level. And as Mendez looks to close in, Titoni looks to throw a punch out there and let him run into it. It worked well for him a couple times toward the end of round number 2. And a good left hand lands there for Titoni, snaps back the head of Mendez. Mendez takes another shot, but takes it well. Mendez now comes in with some hard strikes, but again gets his head jacked back. Nice timing by Titoni, ducked right under it. Classic wrestling. Wait for that punch to come high, skip underneath it. Mendez warned to watch the back of the head. Meanwhile, Titoni's worked his way to full mount again. Mendez with One arm hooked over the back of the neck of Titoni, keeping him from posture up. And I can hear the corner of Titoni, crew Mark Montoya, calling for the high mount. Again, they want those knees to come up, go under the armpits of Mendez. Shuts down some of the striking and mobility of the bottom fighter. Opens up the ground and pound a bit. Titoni trying to come through with some hook punches. Mendez with his right arm has reached around a couple of times trying to cuff the ears of Titoni and being warned for striking back of the head. It was kind of close. And Titoni looking like he's maybe going to set up an armbar here or a gift wrap. Mendez wise to both of them. Gets his shoulders back into position for defense against those submissions, but that just opens up the striking game for Titoni from the top. And some advice coming in from Mendez to just hold Titoni down. And of course, Mendez's contingent of fans wants a stand-up here. Titoni now, chance to set a hand arm choke. Does not come through because Mendez one more time got his shoulders flat on the mat, but again, that just allows the ground and pound to open up for Titoni. Mendez now trying to hold Titoni down. Titoni cross-facing, looking to create a little distance. Absolutely brutal the amount of energy that these guys are putting forth here. Mendez trying to get his feet on the cage. Titoni grapevines one leg at least. Some Mendez fans calling for the stand-up. Of course, that'd be advantageous to their fighter, and Mendez trying to buck and roll out of there, but that heavy, heavy pressure from Titoni has just been the key to this fight all night long. Titoni with his hands over the face of Mendez, trying to affect the breathing pattern. Basically an annoyance. Mendez again trying to buck and roll here, wants to set up the leg lock position. And Titoni gonna have to try to scramble to his feet now. Up to standing they go. Big knee lands for Mendez, tries to wrap up head control on the way to the mat, but Titoni again takes dominant position. Both fighters staying busy with the strikes. 10-second clackers sounded. It's like we're gonna go to the judges for this one, and both these guys looking to put together a little flurry to end the fight. Take it to the judges.
All right, Pueblo. Bout 11. Judge Joseph Garcia scores the bout 30-27. Judge Mark Van Tine scores about 30-27. And Judge Benjamin Ramirez scores the bout 30-27 for your winner by unanimous decision, Jordan 2.